it's Daphne. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a special collab video for you. This is in collaboration with Beccie from Bec's Reads. Thank you for inviting me into this collab. I'm gonna link down all the other creators that are participating. I wanna give like a special shout out to Kaylani because I've been following her for a while now and I'm just like, oh my God, I get to be in a collab with Kaylani. Though I haven't really talked with her one-to-one, but it feels pretty special. Anyway, this collab is about the books that have made us cry. I'm gonna give you a list of books that made me cry, that are sad books, and because it's April, it's kind of like April showers bring May flowers. So our April tears are gonna bring May joys, hopefully. I've made this list in order of books that made me cry, like heavy tears, like a lot of tears, and then books that kind of like just made me tear up. So I'm very excited to get into this list and give you these recommendations, and hopefully if you wanna cry, these books will make you cry. And if you need more recommendations, again, check out the channels I've linked down below because they will definitely have some awesome recommendations as well. So the first book I'm gonna recommend is How High We Go in the Dark. This book made me cry almost nonstop. And this is a book selection I picked for my IRL book club here in my apartment building. And those members of the book club also could not stop crying reading this book. So this is a like Asian American experience. It's a bit sci-fi, it's a bit apocalyptic. So the premise of this book, also to mention, it's like a collection of short stories that are interwoven together. So it's like separate stories, but they all have like little elements that tie them together. And it's written by one author. So I don't know if that makes it an anthology, I don't know. But anyway, the premise of this book is that there is this disease, you know, like a pandemic, where it's killing the young children in the societies across the globe, and how the world has kind of evolved to deal with this influx in death. So like the death industry becomes like a booming thing. Just going into it, it's like a story about death and grief and how you want to be treated after you die, like what you want to happen with your remains, how you respect your family members after they die, and how you carry on their legacy and things like that, and just like how bizarre life can become when death is so prevalent that you kind of become numb to it, you know what I mean? And there are these just like crazy sci-fi aspects too that were really, really cool. And I would just 10 out of 10 recommend this. I ended up giving this 5 stars. But back to the main premise, there's like this pandemic where kids are dying, and one of like the first stories is where parents have the opportunity to bring their kids who were dying to this amusement park as like their last joyful day before they euthanize the kids. And they like euthanize the kids by putting them on this like really intense roller coaster that like G-forces them to death. But you get to like know the families, and oh my God, if you just need to cry, this book is perfect. I will say the second half wasn't as good as the first half in my opinion, but like some of the stories in the second half that like really wrap it all together were like beautiful, amazing, I loved. So, oh gosh, I just want you guys to experience this. Okay, sorry if you can hear the construction noise, but we're gonna keep on trucking, okay? We're gonna keep going. So the next book that made me cry like a lot was this one, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. This is such a beautiful book. Oh my God, the construction noise is so bad. Can you hear that? So this is a beautiful, beautiful book. So it focuses on the friendship between Sam and Sadie. They are really into gaming and they end up creating a video game together kind of at the perfect moment in time. I think it was in the 90s that they made this video game, like right as like the industry was like really like hitting a boom and like developing really, really fast, and they became very successful at it. This story is about like I said, friendship, but like love and heartbreak and just like so many nuanced things. And I just cried like repeatedly for this book because it was just so heartbreaking and so beautiful and just like so well written, not well spoken. and just so well written. And yeah, definitely would recommend this over and over and over again. This was Book of the Month's best book of the year. It was amazing. I would recommend this to literally anybody, and I would be shocked if it didn't at least make you feel emotional. Then I want to talk about this one. So it's A Man Called Ove. This is by Frederick Bachman. This is the second book I read by this author. I read his Anxious People book, and it's like one of my all-time favorite books now. And then I picked this one up after that. I've only read those two. I own like at least 2 more of his books. I think I own like 2 more of his books, but I haven't gotten to them because they always make me sad. They always make me sad, so I have to like be in the mood to be sad, and then I'll like pick it up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be sad right now. So this is a story about an older man. I don't know how old he is. I think he's probably in his late 60s or 70s. Like, he's grandpa age for sure. And he is living alone, and he's just so sad and grumpy. He's like so grumpy. A new family has moved in next door, and they've been irritating him. And it's just kind of like a character study of this man and how his community is trying to just kind of like worm their way into his heart and stuff. And he is just like so like sad because, you know, he's alone. Like, you'll find out more about like why he's alone, and it's just really sweet, and it just made me tear up. And sometimes I wanted to cry a little bit harder, but it was sad. It was kind of like a, you know, feeling. But yeah, I would recommend this author. I feel like his books are really focused on his characters, and they're just so well done, and I'm obsessed with it, and I can't wait to continue reading his backlist. I just got to get over my fear of being like, oh, it's gonna make me sad, you know, because I read for like joy and pleasure and things like that, you know what I mean? So it's worth it to get through it, but it's just like painful at the time. Tomorrow and Tomorrow was painful to read also because it was sad. But yeah, A Man Called Ove. And then I want to talk about this book, Love and Other Disasters. I know not everybody like is obsessed with this book, but I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 4.5, if not 5 stars. This is a romance between a woman and a non-binary character, and they are on a cooking competition show, and it's their romance together. And it made me cry because the experience of this non-binary character, I forget what their name is, let me check, London. So London's experience of being in the public eye as non-binary was just like really impactful for some people, and other people were just hating on them so much, and just like seeing the impact they made on the people that needed it the most just like made me cry. I'm like reading it like about like a young person who sees London representing, you know, them on TV, and just like how much that meant to them, and like their family, and like their relationship with their parents, and just like I was crying. It was just sweet. It was like happy tears. It wasn't like devastation tears. It was just like, oh my god, like how can you not cry? But also there's fucking sirens. So I really enjoyed this book, and I thought it was very sweet romance. And yeah, I hadn't read a book with a non-binary main character in a romance before, and this was just a really good success for me, so loved. And then this one might surprise people, okay? Sign Here. So this is like kind of a funny suspense novel. The main character is Peyote. He works in hell. He like works in an office building in hell where like none of the pens work, where the coffee's always cold, or no, I don't even know. Like what are some of the things they say? Oh, coffee machine's broken, I'm sorry. It was just kind of funny, but also it's very serious in other aspects of like the darkness of some of these families on Earth that he's trying to get their souls. So he's like, he needs to sign people's souls away, and like the things that these people on Earth are going through is like serious. And then the hell stuff is like kind of funny. So I think a lot of people went into this with expectations where it was just gonna be ha 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 funny the whole time, and it really isn't. Like there's some dark stuff going on with some of the different storylines. But the end of this book, like obviously I'm not gonna tell you what happens, but Peyote is working so hard for this one thing, and like the choice he made at the end, like I closed the book and then just kind of sat there like this on the couch for like 5 minutes, just like, wow, like what did I just experience? I just sat there kind of taking it all in, and then the tears just started flowing. Just heartbroken. I literally needed time to mentally compute like all my emotions, and then I just started crying. It was amazing. What a cool experience to like finish something and be like, wow, and then just sit there quietly alone and then just start crying. So yeah, very satisfying. And is it like the best suspense book ever? Probably not, but I don't read the genre that much. So if you're new to this kind of genre, I think this is like a really fun starting point. It's not perfect by any means, but I had a good time, and then I had an amazing time at the end, and it just like blew my mind with how it ended. It just like, ugh, my heart. But I will admit, as I've gotten older, I am so sensitive to crying, like so sensitive. So take these recommendations with a bit of a grain of salt, because like I was watching like Human Resources, that cartoon show on Netflix, and there was this thing with like this man's mother like slowly dying because she was old, and like I'm watching this cartoon that's like a silly cartoon, and I'm crying for her, crying for him, like I'm so quick to tears. Like there are things where you're like, oh yeah, it's sad, but like I'm like crying. So take these recommendations with a grain of salt. I am quick to tears these days. These last few books are books that like had moments that made me kind of like tear up, but I wouldn't say they're like books that you read to cry necessarily. So I'm going to talk about the 5th season. There is a scene in this book that is just horrifying and tragic that like upset me so strongly, and in a way that's supposed to upset you, and it just emphasizes the wrongdoings that are going on in this world. So if you don't know, the 5th season is a fantasy series. I've only read the first one so far. There are these magical people that can control like the tectonic plates of the earth, and they're being used by the majority of the population. So they're the minority group, and they're being controlled by the human population. The way they're being used and who they use is just, and it was just so shocking and just so tragic. And if you know, you know, like when one of our main characters like goes to that building and she sees like how the energy source is working, that scene, like if you know, you know, that is just heartbreaking. So yeah, that really made me upset, and I thought it deserved a shout out. This is obviously an amazing book. It's a winner of the Hugo Award. I think like the whole series has awards. I want to reread this and then read the next 2 in the series. But I want to do something special. Maybe like I have to figure out a way to like binge series and make like a video series on it. But I'm working on that. So I haven't been prioritizing my fantasy series, but I definitely wanted to shout this book out. And then I'll quickly shout out the manga series Orange. So this is a series where our young high school heroine gets a letter from her future self, basically saying one of her new classmates is in danger of himself. Let's say like he is in a dark place and he doesn't want to be around anymore. He doesn't want to be alive anymore, and she needs to save him. So obviously that's already a heavy topic. The story is supposed to be heartwarming and hopeful, and obviously sad and heartbreaking, and it achieved what it came out to achieve. So adding it to this list as well. And then the last book I'm gonna mention for this video is Lord of the Flies. This is a like modern classic in my opinion. I had to read this in high school and I reread it recently as an adult, and it still really holds up in my opinion as like an amazing piece of fiction. And this made me emotional and upset and tear up because there's just like a lot of injustices that are happening among these young boys that are stranded on this island, because they kind of have to create their own little mini society to survive, and there's like this power struggle, and there's bullying, and then there's tragedies that happen. And it upset me the first time I read it, and it upset me again the second time I read it. So very, very good, beautiful book. Definitely recommend if you haven't read it. If you don't know, basically these, like, I'd say maybe like 10 to 12-year-old boys get stranded on this island. It takes place, I think, I don't know, maybe between the world wars. I don't know, it's not disclosed, it's not specific, it doesn't really matter. But they're stranded on this island, and at first it's like a paradise for them, and then it quickly like shifts into this darker atmosphere, and how like the group kind of separates, and how they're like kind of becoming like wild, animalistic, brutal boys. And it's just a great story that just devolves into darkness. And yeah, great, made me tear up. For the people, if you read it, you know, like Piggy, and I think it was Simon, and like, yeah, had to be on this list. So there you have it. That's the list of books that made me cry, made me emotional, tore my heart out, broke my heart, stomped on it, you know, was just tear-jerking. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I hope you enjoy these recommendations. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. Again, check out the channels down below, and I will see you in another video. Bye!